What's up, you guys? It's Jake State Farm here with Atomic Theory, bringing you another video. In today's video, we're going to be going over some games that I had, doing some analysis. I honestly think that's one of the best ways to improve in atomic chess, and honestly, just chess in general. I think if you're not going over your games, you're going to miss your blind spots, miss the tactics that you didn't see, or the mistakes you had, or maybe what your opponent could have done to punish you too. So we're gonna be going over that today, and let's get into it without further ado here. So in this game, I'm white against Willem Krasowski. I believe that's how it's said. Sorry, Willem, if I'm mispronouncing your name there, but Willem's a fellow top 50 player here, so super strong player. The other night we played a bunch of 1+0 games against each other, so not always the highest quality, but when you cherry pick some games, you'll find some good ones. So I open the game here with knight f3, and again, threatening knight e5 and knight g5. Can't allow knight e5 here. It's going to allow me to get checkmate on the king here. So Willem responds with f6, and I decided to go with knight c3 here. There's a few ways to stop this move, a few responses that black has. Knight h6 is one clever idea. If I were to try to advance with, say, even knight d5, but particularly knight b5, black will have this mate in one thread, but even after knight d5 and e6, I'll have to respond to this, and then black will just be able to take my knight there. So knight h6 is one response. The most common response, actually, I take that back. Looks like it's the second most common response. My opponent likes to go with c6 here, which isn't a bad move by any means. I play knight d5, just sacrificing that knight, but there's a reason for this, and you'll see a little bit later on. I decided to go for e4, and as you remember from the last video, this is threatening still this idea of knight e5. It's just brutal threat that keeps showing up here. If f takes, you've got queen h5 and queen d5, and there's this double attack that black can't stop here. So sneaky move here, but my opponent's a good player. He knows what I'm going for. Plays e6, which stops all those ideas. I like to go for bishop b5 here, and you'll see without this c pawn here, there's only one way to stop this, and that's knight c6. And this looks okay for black, but it really halts any kind of play that black would have on the queen side here. This bishop is pinning this knight, and it's stopping black from just really doing anything over here. So I like to go for d4 here, opening up this bishop, and a lot of these lines here, you'll see this threat of knight e5, and of course the black knight can't do anything here. And so, like, say if black were to play knight h6 immediately, right, I could play knight e5, and after f takes, I could play queen h5, queen g5, and black would be forced to take and lose this knight on h6 here. So kind of a clever move here. This bishop is often valuable in those lines too, but I'm really just gaining space, kind of asking black, hey, what are you going to do here? Black sees all my threats. He stops it with g6, which is smart. I won't have any more queen h5 ideas, so it's a good move. Here I like to go for the move c3. It's kind of a calm move. It does a few things here. The most important being that if my opponent were to play bishop b4, he's no longer able to do that with a tempo because I'm blocking this check here. But it also does some other things. If black were to castle in this line, which he eventually wants to, I'm blocking this knight further. I'm making potential space for my queen. So just a good solid move to play here. Again, this line is not like a win now kind of line. I'm not trying to say, hey, I'm winning immediately. I have some crazy threat. I'm building up pressure over time here and just trying to overwhelm black. So black does play bishop b4. And here I play this really unique move. I play h3. The reason for this is black, as I stated earlier, has just nothing on the queen side. I mean, this loses his queen, this loses his queen, this loses his queen. There's just nothing over on the queen side. This bishop is completely boxed in. This knight and this bishop can't hardly move. So black has to play on the queen side. Black's main idea here is something like h5, knight h6, castles, something coming over here. Well, I'm going to go ahead and prepare for this move knight h6 with the move h3, and you'll see how useful this move is in a lot of lines here. So my opponent plays h5, not a bad move at all, and now I castle, and again, black still wants to castle. If black doesn't castle, I'll eventually have this threat of knight e5 and bishop g5, and probably something like f4, f5 too. And my rook's going to be coming in, my bishop will be here. It's just going to be a disaster for black. So black has to figure out something immediately. He elects to go for d6, and I don't love this move. It's definitely not a losing move by any means, but the bishop's never really coming to d7 here. I guess the idea may be after castles that this bishop won't be pinning this knight here. Not a terrible move, but I don't love it. I think maybe knight h6 could have been played there. I'm not really sure. So I go for king h1, and again, this is mainly just preparing for knight h6, knight g4, and a lot of lines that would be threatening mate. And now it's no longer threatening mate, so knight h6 is a lot less scary for me now. In fact, if he were to play knight h6, I believe I would just be able to play knight g5, and if knight g4, I could play knight f7 and then take this knight. So king h1 just kind of giving me some breathing room there. Again, I'm not trying to rush anything. I just want to see what black's going to do here. So now black plays b6, and this is kind of what I'm talking about. The bishop was never really coming out on this diagonal anyway, especially since I'd already played h3. And so with d6 now and b6, it's like he's trying to create space for his bishop, but he's doing it in too many different ways, and it doesn't make too much sense here. I'm now finally able to break. I go ahead and play knight g5. My pieces are all where I want them to be, so I'm ready to make my break. And f takes g5, bishop g5. Now he has to play knight f6. And here I find what's by far the best move and a really cool idea here. I play f4. The tempting move here is to play either d5 or e5. For instance, if I play e5, I'm threatening to take on d6 here. And if I play d5, I'm threatening to take on e6 here. But as the computer gives away there, black is just going to mirror me. Black, with d5 is going to play e5, and against e5, we'll play d5. So, in a position like this, although it looks good for me, I've actually kind of given away most of my advantage here. I can't ever take because I'll explode my bishop. So I can't play too fast. Well, the move f4, what it allows me to do is it allows me to control this e5 square twice. That's very important because I can now play either f5 or d5, and no matter what I do, this pawn is not going to really have a good option. If it just stays there, I'll capture it and explode this knight, opening up my bishop here. And if he pushes, I will still take whichever pawn I left behind. I'll take it, again opening up this bishop. So black is pretty hopeless at this point. He plays bishop a6, which is a good try. Pinning my rook here and maybe creating some room for him. He's finally made a little bit of progress on the queen side, but I think it's too little too late. I play d5, and yeah, again, e5 doesn't work here. I'll just play f takes, and my rook is open. He castles, that's the best move. After d takes, knight d4, I just simply chop off his queen, and it's hopeless at this point, but then he misses queen d5, and there's no way to defend this here. So, nice clean game one there. Let's look at a game where I've got black against him here. So he opens with knight f3, f6, and d4. Now d4 is a very interesting move. Again, kind of a cunning move. You're opening up this bishop here. One thing to note is that this knight is going to have a really hard time getting out here, which is important. I mean, you want to be able to castle kingside if you can. Well, your knight's not going to go to f6, that's for sure. This pawn can't really move because this knight will just come in. And if you ever try to go to h6, well, then this is mate in 3. You can't take because of bishop g5, and there's no knight here to protect this anymore. So what you're really doing with d4 is you're actually kind of pinning down this knight in a funny way. What you're also doing is you're preparing queen d3, you're just opening up some more space, maybe e4 in the future. The tempting move here to play is e6, but this is just going to be really tough for you to ever get pieces out. Again, after knight h6, we could possibly see the same theme from last game. For instance, in a line like this, e4, knight h6, knight e5 takes, and then there's queen h5, g6, queen g5 here, and we're going to lose our knight here. So there's a lot of reasons why e6 is not the best move, and it's not one that I really like to play here. So instead I went for d5, and white responds to the most common move. Here you've got a couple options. b5 seems to be the most tempting option. It's not my favorite. After b5, you'll have e4, and let's say something like bishop g4. It kind of loses tactically here. After e takes, there's threats of d5 and knight d5 here, and there's either going to be like a pawn on d7 later in this line or like a knight on c7. There's really no way for you to stop it. The bishop's going to come to d3, this one's going to come to f4, and this is a line that you'd need to study for yourself, but yeah, if you don't know this line, b5 seems like a fine move, and it is. You can play this, but you'll see over here in this opening explorer, white does win the majority of the time here. So I like to go for c6 instead. Now, one real quick thing with this, you got to be aware of e4. This is actually what my opponent plays in the game here. Huge threat from white here. If you don't know this, super helpful for you. But knight b5 is a big threat, and the idea being if c captures, then there is bishop b5 here. Actually, I can turn this on. If you didn't know this, you can hit the X button on Lichess and it'll show all your threats. So yeah, if I were to play no move here, white could respond with knight b5. You see that's plus 14, and actually taking just loses. The idea being after bishop b5, knight c6, there's e captures d5, which explodes the knight. So it's actually recommending after knight b5, I play queen a5. But yeah, you definitely don't want to get into this. So the move I play here is knight h6, the idea being if white were to play knight b5, I've got knight g4, and this is going to lead to checkmate one way or the other. So black has to stop his plan for now. He plays knight e5. I continue with knight g4, and after f4, the computer actually likes d takes e4 here. Didn't love this line. I thought there might be something like knight d5 here. And after takes, like bishop b5, knight c6, d5, I thought was maybe an idea, but yeah, I thought for a while here in a 1-minute game, I thought for 11 seconds and decided to just chop off this knight here. At this point, I was out of my prep already on move 6. I didn't know what to do yet. My opponent continues with knight b5, which is not a bad move by any means. It does, however, allow this move knight e3, where it seems like I'm giving up, something crazy here, but I'm threatening mate twice, so the only move white has is bishop e3. Now after bishop g4, tricky situation for white here. You want to play something like queen d2, queen c1, but after queen d2, we just have bishop e2, and this is mate. And after queen c1, there's bishop e2, and then king d2, queen a5, b4, and then after queen a4, there's just no way to stop everything I've got going on here. So you really can't allow the bishop to get in like that. He instead plays queen f3, and this is not a good move. I should have just taken on g4, to be honest. But I get that he's trying to gain a tempo here. He wants me to be the one to have to take his queen so he can jump his knight in. Totally understand the idea. So I do play d takes, and he gets my queen back here. Then there's the move bishop d3, and here's where the game really turns on its head. There's only one move that's really winning for me here. You'll notice that there's this attack on h7, and you'd be very tempted to play g6 here, but that's actually not a good move. After g6, the game is pretty even. The move I play here is bishop e2, and if you've never seen this idea before, yeah, this is a bishop on e2 is worth way more than a rook and the pawn here in the corner. Essentially what this move is doing is it's stopping white from ever being able to castle for the whole game. There's no way to remove this bishop. The only way to get your king to safety is to move it to d2 or f2. And even after that, even after something like king f2, rook d1 would be difficult because I would still just be able to take it here. So this bishop, if you're ever able to get a bishop one square in front of the king like this, huge pressure on the opponent. So yeah, very happy to sacrifice this to get a bishop on e2. So my opponent says, thank you very much. You must have hung your rook in the corner. And now once again I play the best move, a really nice move here, where you just have to kind of understand the position to play a move like this. I play the move e5, and this move is opening up these files here, And with my bishop here, there's no way for a rook to get on an open file here. So, no matter which pawn he pushes here, I'll just take the other one, and I'll be able to open up a file for my own rook. It was still a good position even if I didn't play e5, but this was by far the best move here. So he plays f5, I take on d4, and now he plays b4. Had to stop my bishop from coming in like this. Then I'm able to castle queenside, and yeah, make light work of the king here. A big lesson from this game here is, you want to confuse your opponent. He was already, I mean, we were both confused, to be honest. But he was already confused by, move 7 or so. And, he already kind of made this mistake of actually even before that. At this point, I think he was already out of book. And you really want to confuse it. As the black player, you're worse already. And so if I just played a normal line, like, say b5, it plays right into what he wants to do. He wants to take here, play d5, or play knight d5. And he probably knows these lines like the back of his hand. So as black, you really want to A, confuse your opponent, and B, you want to understand why you're making the moves you're making. Why did I play c6 instead of b5? What are the reasons? What's my opponent's threats with that? If you're just making moves because they're prepped, then your opponent's going to take advantage of that. And I honestly think that's kind of what happened to my opponent here. He was just making moves because he knew they were the right moves, and then at some point he didn't know what the right move was anymore. But if you understand the ideas, it'll go a long way in Atomic. Lastly, I want to take a look at a game that he was able to beat me in. This is a really, really nice game from him, and I think it's always good to look at your losses and understand what you could have done better. So we were white again here. We opened with knight f3, and this time we went for knight d4, threatening this idea of knight f5, so he stops it, and we trade off knights. And this is another line where I'm not trying to win immediately. I'm just trying to open up the position a little bit. The main goal is just to get a spatial advantage. This pawn on f6 really hurts black because it's going to stop his queen from ever being able to get out. So yeah, this is a fine position for both sides, but I like it. I go with e4, and he plays c6, which is a fine move. There's this threat of queen h5, queen d5, so he's stopping that. I play d4, and now d6. So here I made a minor mistake. I was worried that he was coming out to g4, and I was trying to telegraph him, and in hindsight, I played f3. In hindsight, it does kind of block my queen from ever getting out, and to be honest, if he played bishop g4, I could then just respond with f3, and then if there was something like bishop h5, I could just play g4, and normally when you open up your king side like this, you got to be worried about the queen coming in. But with 2 pawns in the way, blocking the queen, it's just never really going to happen. It's not going to be a threat that you're worried about. So probably could have opted to play something like knight c3 or bishop c4, just developing something, I think. But okay, it's still fine. Knight a6, I block his knight from coming in with b4. He plays h5, which is a good move, just gaining some space on the queen side here. I respond with h4, and then g6. He says, yeah, these pawns are blocking my bishop. It's never going to come out this way, so I'm going to get it out on this diagonal, which makes perfect sense. I go ahead and trade bishops with him, and I gain space again. Fine move by me, just getting some space here. He then plays his best move here of d5, and here I play c5, which is not a bad move. Again, just trying to gain space, trying to restrict this knight and this queen as much as possible. However, he has one move here that's really strong, and to be honest, if I could go back, I would definitely play e5 for the sole purpose of stopping him from playing e5. He plays it. This is a really necessary move to gain some space, to fight back in the center a little bit. If he doesn't play that, I would be able to play e5. I would have, maybe bishop d3, queen d2 ideas. So really, really strong move for my opponent here. I then played a3 with the idea of I want to play b5, and I want to stop his knight from coming in here. So he then takes on d4, which is another great move by him. He's now kind of got this sneaky threat of queen e7, which looks easy to stop, but it's actually not that easy. So I go along with my plan with b5, just thinking, yeah, if you want to come here, I will take. And there's no queen a5 here because my rook will defend, so I'm thinking, I'm fine here. Well, he then plays queen e7, and I realize, okay, I might be in a little bit of trouble here. I have to play something like queen e2 to stop this idea. Gotta block with my queen. And now there's only one move that keeps the advantage for him, and he finds it. It's d4. Uh, yeah, super strong move. He's just going to try to push this pawn all the way down the board here. And yeah, I got to find a way to block it. What does the computer say? I forget here. There is a way to stop it. Yeah, so I'm not lost at all at this point. Actually, it might take the computer a second here to realize that he's doing okay. But yeah, I like e5 for me here. In the game, I thought knight d2 was okay because I'd rather have my knight stuck behind this pawn than my queen. My knight's not as valuable. But once again, only one move to keep the advantage, and he finds it. It's d3. And at this point, I'm in a lot of trouble. My bishop's stuck, my king's stuck, knight and queen, they're all stuck. It's hard to find any progress here. So I get my queen out of the way with queen f2. And he, for the third move in a row here, finds the best move and really the only move to keep the advantage going here. So, got to give him props. Well played to my opponent here, but he plays queen e5. And just my dark squares are so weak here. I don't have a dark square bishop. All of my pawns are on light squares. I'm really regretting this move of f3 earlier. But yeah, he's threatening queen g3, queen f4, queen b2, everything. I mean, there's no way I can stop it all. So I decided to go for queen g3, and yeah, just basically conceding queen b2 to him. And after king f2, I've got to get rid of my queen here, otherwise mate's coming. And here he actually makes a couple big mistakes, and the lesson that we'll take away from this game is basically just to play to the end. Here he could have played queen c1, which would have been his best move. If I play rook takes c1, he can trade this pawn off for my bishop, and then I'm just going to be too slow. His rook's going to come in here. Well, instead he plays queen d4, which is his first mistake. It's still winning for him here after bishop takes d3. He can play queenside castle, get this rook on the open file, and after these rooks trade off, then he'll bring his other rook, and this rook's just going to be way too slow getting into the action. Well, instead he starts with rook d8, and then after we trade off rooks, he now has to waste a tempo to get his king out of the way. So he really could have gone, castled queenside here. And here I have just a crazy draw, not something that you'd expect at all. And gosh, I don't even hardly understand it even saying it. I could have played the move king f2, and the idea is something like, let's look at the most obvious line here, right? Let's say rook d8, rook d1, and then after this, if you play something like knight b4, I don't have to take. It's a 3-on-3 over here. I don't have to take. I'll just push these pawns up. And as long as I can get my pawns up high enough, even if he's able to sack his knight from one of them, my king's going to be able to get in the way, and I think I'm going to do okay in that pawn race. So this line's actually a draw. Well, what's interesting is, let's look at a different line here where he can create a 1-on-0. And so now really all he has to do, you would think, is trade off rooks, and he's fine. Well, not so fast. Let's say rook d8, and you can see the computer lines here. I could play a move like rook b1, as crazy as it sounds, and now after rook d2, without my king in the corner here, if I'd played king h2, there's no way to defend this. Well, now I can do this, and this may look bad, but I'm actually winning here. In this endgame, just to give an example of what could happen, I'm not saying I'm making the best moves here, but what could happen here is something like this, where it's black to move, and he doesn't want to just go straight back because then I'm going to be first to queen. So instead he has to triangulate, but then I'll just do the same thing, and I actually win this because my pawn is further advanced, so he's going to run out of squares before I do. And yeah, I would actually win this endgame. So instead, going way back to that original position, yeah, his best idea here is just to repeat moves like this. So yeah, I mean, in this position, I didn't play king f2, and I only had 9 seconds. There's no way you could calculate it at all, but yeah, valuable lesson. In the endgame, you always want to get your king towards the center, even in atomic. King f2 just looks like a scary move here, but yeah, I didn't even realize, but I had a draw there. And then with just a few seconds on his clock here, with about 1 second here, he finishes me off. So that's all for today. Yeah, just a few lessons to take away from today. Number one, understanding why you're making the moves you're making. You know, even in that first game that I was showing you, playing h3, playing c3, some weird, king h1, some weird moves. You really want to understand why you're making the moves you're making, and not just making them because you know that they're right. Really understanding the ideas behind them is going to help you a lot. The second thing we can take away from this is, as black, always complicate the position. Don't make it easy for white. Don't make moves that white expects you to make. Always play something that's out of prep. Play something that's weird and offbeat. There's certain opponents and there's certain times where it makes sense to play long lines of prep. But in general, as black, just complicate the position as much as you can. And lastly, from this game, what we can take away is, yeah, keep fighting to the end. I mean, I thought I was completely lost there, and sure, with best play I was, but my opponent played incredibly all game, and then 2 moves in a row there makes mistakes, and I've got a draw that I can salvage. So my mindset was, I'm completely losing, but I actually could have salvaged it. That's all I got for you guys today. Thanks for watching, and yeah, stay tuned for more.